Florida Live starts now.
Well, good afternoon to you and welcome into Florida Live. I'm Garrett Wymer and thanks for joining us on this Monday afternoon live on Fox Local, YouTube, and on Fox 35. We are tracking Tropical Storm Imelda today, a storm that thankfully is going to be staying off of the Florida's coast. It's not going to make landfall in Florida or the U.S. at all, according to the latest projections and forecasts. And that is certainly good news, but that doesn't mean we're not going to be feeling impacts. In fact, some we are seeing already. Let me give you a live look in Volusia County. Daytona Beach, our Hard Rock Hotel camera, where we have seen rough surf and dangerous rip currents. We know a 51-year-old died over the weekend after drowning in an area that, according to Beach Patrol, was not staffed with lifeguards. And again, just a reminder of the danger that you face with those rough surf and the rip currents. We're also tracking some impacts. Here's some ships in port at Port Canaveral right now. We know a number of cruise ships have made some adjustments, came into port a little early, making some changes to their itinerary because of the churn in the Atlantic, and just making some changes to make sure everyone stays safe and has an enjoyable time as well if they are on one of those cruise ships. But we're also tracking other impacts and potential for flooding along Florida's coast. And joining us live now is Fox 35's Esther Bauer, who is joining us via Zoom from Brevard County. And Esther, I know you've talked with folks in Cape Canaveral who have a lot of concerns.
Yeah, we talked with some seniors, actually spoke with them a few weeks prior, but flooding is a big threat that they face every storm season. And we're just talking about if you get a heavy downpour, our normal afternoon showers, they can flood. So you can imagine seeing these massive systems off the coast. They are extremely stressed right now. And before we saw the storms really taking that hard right, over the weekend, they spent about 20 hours of seniors, veterans, digging trenches, removing debris from this channel that runs through the mobile home park. And they've also installed, we were just out there, a brand new pump that they have in the middle of their property now. They have another hose a little bit further away from where that one is. And as soon as the property manager says he'll start seeing water go up in the middle of their property, they're going to connect the hoses and try to send the water somewhere else. Right there is where they're trying to send the water. This is right in the back of all of these mobile homes. And these seniors are just scared. I mean, they don't know how much rain is going to dump. Something else I found awesome that they were doing is, since we're going to see a lot of the heaviest system from the hurricane and that, overnight, they installed this camera system where the property manager is going to be inside his home, but he has it pointing directly at this where they often flood. And he says he'll be up all night watching that just to see what could happen. But this has been a problem for about 5 years. Homeowners say flooding didn't used to be this bad, but the city made some changes. So they're not really getting anywhere with the city, they feel. And so for this current system, they are taking steps on their own, about 20 hours over the weekend of prep work, about $5,000 this property had to pay to buy these pumps, to get rid of all these trees, to get this camera put up, and to dig these ditches. They're saying that's all they can do. So now they're just hoping and praying that the system continues to steer clear of us. But if for any time point they get a heavy downpour, they're hoping all of this new stuff can help keep water from going into people's homes.
Esther, I think you touched on it, but why is this a problem area to begin with?
There's several reasons, and there's been kind of a blame game of sorts between the city and then this property. But ultimately, homeowners are saying they're kind of surrounded by problem spots. They have this massive drainage ditch, what you're looking at right now. They also have a lot of overgrowth on both sides of their property. So standing water is always there, as well as they're the lowest lying property. So the road above them, all the other RV parks surrounding them just dump into them. They, however, didn't notice problems for quite some time. Around the 2017-2018, they said the city did some updates to the roads and then the drainage system. And that's when they really started seeing a lot of water backing into them. We did ask the city about this a few weeks prior when we chatted with these homeowners, and they told us they're right now doing a study to see if anything can be done on their side structurally to try to stop all the water from shooting into this mobile home park. We also know they did clean out, the city says they cleaned out a lot of branches, other stuff that had been kind of blocking the water flow in that back waterway. So the city says that they're taking steps. However, the homeowners feel they shouldn't be flooded out for 5 years. So they are just hoping to see more long-term solutions. What we're going to be showing you later tonight, the fixes that they've put in place, they say are just a short-term solution, but they're looking for something long-term and also looking for something that these homeowners, many who are seniors, veterans, don't have to be paying for to fix.
All right, Fox 35's Esther Bauer, we appreciate you joining us live from Brevard County this afternoon.
Yep, we'll keep you posted.
All right. Fox 35 Storm Team Meteorologist TJ Springer joins me now. And TJ, what can we expect from this storm? We heard about some of the concerns over flooding along the Cape there. So what are we going to see and when?
I would say that probably the biggest concern is going to be that, heavier rain near the coast, that potential for erosion and some coastal flooding. I'm still saying somewhat minor, Garrett, but the waves are really going to be high and the rip current risk also going to be high as well. So if anyone's here on vacation, maybe they had a trip planned to come down, not great beach days, not good to be in the ocean. But I would say for the most part, we're not expecting really a ton of rain from this just because of, the worst of the weather. The heaviest rain is offshore, but you can kind of see this delicate dance between Tropical Storm Imelda and Hurricane Umberto. And eventually, because of the position of Umberto in relationship to Imelda and that upper low that's over us, Garrett, kind of, across the southeast U.S., that is going to prevent this from moving inland like that potential was just a few days ago. But it looks like little by little, especially once we get into our Tuesday and Wednesday, we're going to start to see this move away, and we'll start to improve in terms of conditions. You can see these spotty showers right now. Nothing all that heavy, no lightning with this, but certainly a lot of moisture in the air. We're going to see these squally showers, these tropical downpours through the remainder of the afternoon into the evening commute. That's why we have this impact day, and why we're going to continue to see the rough surf and the rip currents with that stronger onshore flow wrapping around Imelda.
It's crazy, TJ, to I think see when you had it up on the radar a minute ago, just those two systems.
Yes.
It's just crazy to see.
It's wild. I mean, at least in my career, Gary, I don't think I've seen it in other parts of the world, but never have I seen it for us, so close to the U.S. And thankfully, I think it is a blessing that Umberto is so close, because it's going to help yank Imelda away from the eastern seaboard.
Yeah, as scary as it is to see both of them churning out there, Umberto really did us a solid by pulling Imelda away from not just Florida's coast, but all of the East Coast.
Sure.
The Carolinas were bracing for potential for impacts.
And that's why I think we kind of hit on this last week. It's like, this is not a lot. Make sure you keep checking back in with us, because little tweaks, because of just the factors as a whole, between Umberto and that upper low. Usually it's just a couple of things that we're watching, or because of this, we're going to likely see this. But because there was just so much that was making for the potential path for Imelda, it was just hard to say, hey, this is what's going to happen. But thankfully, the proximity to Umberto, I think, really helped, and how strong Umberto was really helped the trend of the track eventually start to favor that right hook out into the Atlantic.
But late tonight, it is going to be at its closest to Florida.
Yes, yeah, as it lifts northbound, and I think that's when we'll start to see, through the remainder of the day, we'll likely see it start to intensify more so and likely become Hurricane Imelda. And now it's looking like it could even become a Category 2 as it starts to work eastbound toward Bermuda. So that's going to be something we'll have to watch. Friends, family, travel to Bermuda. Originally, there was the potential that Umberto may have impacted Bermuda, but now it looks like it's actually going to be Imelda that could potentially bring those impacts to Bermuda.
All right, so still watching it, but obviously very thankful that things are trending in the right the right direction and going to pull that thing out to sea.
Yeah, we have that track. If you want us to go through that, the track, it's really, I mean, it's unbelievable to have essentially a right angle, just go directly eastbound, and I think that'll be the story through the remainder of the day. I think once we really hit midweek, I think that's when we'll start to see that potential for this to really make that easterly jog. But certainly something that we'll be watching, and you can see right now, at least with Umberto, how close it is. That's that saving grace, really. And this eventually will move into the North Atlantic and continue to weaken. But thankfully, it's as strong as what it was, which is hard to believe we're saying that. But that's why we're seeing Imelda do what it's going to do. And there it is. You can see how close it is to us right now. At our latest check-in at 2, the wind now up to 60 miles per hour. It's moving north at 9, and then it's going to make that, slowly but surely, make that northeasterly turn, and then we can see it getting stronger as we progress into midweek and beyond. And then thankfully, a bit of a weakening trend as it heads into the North Atlantic area. It looks like maybe trying to move up toward the Canadian Maritimes, but thankfully, Bermuda right now, aside from the indirect impacts to us, really the only landmass that's likely going to be in the path of Imelda.
But like you said, also seeing a weakening trend, which is good because there was thought that it could strengthen to be a major hurricane as well.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And that's what we've had this year. It's hard to believe 3 major hurricanes. And I'm trying to think, I know, obviously, Umberto was a Category 5. I can't remember if Aaron or Gabrielle hit the Category 5 strength. I know one of them did, in addition to Umberto. So just wild to see, the hurricanes that we have had being so strong.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Well, it certainly reminds us to stay vigilant this time of year, even though we're not feeling the direct impacts from this one.
For sure, yeah. So thankful that that's the case for all of us on the East Coast.
Well, Fox 35 Storm Team Meteorologist TJ Springer, we appreciate you joining us. We know folks can check in at 3 o'clock on Fox Local for Fox 35 Weather Plus and get more in depth and ask some questions as well.
Definitely, yeah. We'll dig into a little more, and hopefully there are some waves behind this. Hopefully, nothing official for the NHC right now, but hopefully we can see nothing form from those either.
Yeah, we certainly hope. Well, we appreciate it, TJ.
Thanks, Garrett.
We're going to take a quick break here on Florida Live, and we'll be right back. And just like that, here's another round of rain in Seminole County. This is the live view from our tower camera above our Fox 35 studios in Lake Mary. You're looking at I-4 and the rain coming down pretty hard all of a sudden as we know Tropical Storm Imelda is nearing off the coast, staying off the coast, as we just heard from Storm Team Meteorologist TJ Springer, and that's good news, but we will continue to see some impacts, especially along the Atlantic coast. Well, it's time now for our Tampa connection here on Florida Live. I want to bring in Fox 13 digital content producer Nancy Gay, who is joining us live now from the Fox 13 newsroom. And Nancy, good afternoon. We appreciate you joining us.
Good afternoon, Garrett. Thank you for having me. Well, it looks like the husband of Tampa's former police chief, Mary O'Connor, is now the one in hot water. Keith O'Connor has been suspended from his job as the city's code enforcement director as FDLE looks into whether he improperly arranged for a lottery winner to collect their proceeds. Now, during that investigation, agents discovered unrelated messages on a code enforcement employee's. That employee is Aubrey Pierce. It was on his phone that showed him trying to arrange for the collection of lotto winnings that he was not entitled to, and he was not entitled to those lottery winnings because he owed child support. Now, the person he was messaging was actually his boss, Keith O'Connor. Now, Pierce is facing 4 charges, including taking bribes as a public servant and grand theft. Sources said he allowed a company to dump dozens of tires on city property while taking hundreds of dollars in kickbacks. Now, during that investigation, sources said FDLE found on his phone communications with O'Connor relating to lottery winnings that he wanted his boss to collect for him. Now, for O'Connor's part, FDLE won't say what the potential wrongdoing could be, but numerous sources told Fox 13 that Pierce was trying to hide lottery winnings from those to whom he is ordered to pay child support. The city of Tampa said both O'Connor and Pierce have been suspended from their jobs. O'Connor is still being paid, but Pierce has been suspended without pay. O'Connor is suspended pending the results of an FDLE investigation, while Pierce has been suspended pending the results of the court process. O'Connor and Pierce have known each other for decades. Now, back in 2022, Keith O'Connor was behind the wheel of a golf cart when his wife, then Tampa Police Chief Mary O'Connor, asked a Pinellas County deputy to let them go for a potential traffic violation. Now, this entire incident was caught on camera, and Mary O'Connor could be heard explaining that she was the police chief in Tampa. And after the deputy let them go, she was seen giving him her business card and said, "If you need anything, call me. I'm serious." She resigned after 10 months as Tampa's top cop. Garrett?
Certainly more to come with that, it seems. Something to keep an eye on, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely something to keep an eye on and something that we are following today. And so hopefully we'll have a little bit more information later on tonight.
All right. In Manatee County, expanding their use of drones to help with emergency services. What's that about?
Yes, that's right. This program is actually a partnership between Manatee County, Archer, FRS, as well as Tampa General Hospital. Now, the program, which was implemented about a year ago, uses drones to deliver life-saving aid to patients who are experiencing certain medical emergencies while they wait for an ambulance to arrive. The coverage area for the emergency drone program is expanding more than tenfold from a 3.5 mile to a 35 square mile area. Service will also be expanded to 7 days a week from 6 a.m. until 10 p.m. Now, it works like this. If someone in the service area calls 911 for cardiac arrest or opioid overdose, a drone automatically delivers an automated external defibrillator, or AED, for heart attacks, or Narcan nasal spray for overdoses. The equipment arrives in under 3 minutes on average, and the dispatcher guides the caller through using the equipment until first responders arrive. The drones, which don't have to contend with traffic and can cover large distances a lot faster than an ambulance, can help to dramatically cut response time. Now, each year, 350,000 people in the United States experience a cardiac arrest outside of the hospital, and only about 10% survive. Now, last year, more than 112,000 Americans died from opioid-related exposure. TGH, Archer, FRS, IRS and Manatee County will evaluate the performance and effectiveness of the program during the months ahead to determine how the technology can be utilized to serve more residents across the state. Garrett?
I've got to say that's a pretty fascinating use of that technology. Being able to use drones for something like that, I mean, that could be a game changer.
Yes, absolutely. It could definitely be a game changer. And as you saw in some of the video there, you see a man, he was on the golf course when it looks like he collapsed due to a heart attack. Now, in order for an ambulance to get out there, they would have to, contend with traffic and go through a bunch of other things just to get to him. Whereas if they send the drone out, they can just fly over everything and drop that AED. And again, the operator will walk the other person how to use that equipment. So it could definitely be a game changer here when it comes to medical emergencies.
Yeah, and life-saving technology. That's neat to see. Story number 3, and that's an update on 275, and it's not all good news. What do you got?
Yes, that's right. We have good news and bad news when it comes to 275 here in downtown Tampa. Now, the good news is that a construction project is underway to help make Tampa's infamous malfunction junction a little bit safer, as well as alleviate congestion. But the bad news is, Garrett, that this weekend all lanes of I-275, except for one southbound lane, will be shut down. Now, the lane closures will begin at 12:01 on October 4th and run through 5 a.m. on October 6th. And anyone who is planning to pass through downtown Tampa on the interstate must find an alternative route. Now, this weekend, FDOT is installing 4 steel box girders above the interstate. Now, that's for a new 2-lane bridge that will go from southbound I-275 to eastbound I-4. Now, FDOT added that other improvements for the overall project include converting the old southbound I-275 to I-4 bridge to an I-275 southbound to Ybor City bridge. There will also be an additional lane going from I-4 west to northbound 275.
The previous project we just completed on I-275 southbound funnels directly into this. It widened part of the ramp to 2 lanes, and this will pick that up and basically be improving from 1 lane of our current flyover to a 2-lane operation. So we obviously will have almost a doubling of capacity, as well as taking the drivers who are going to Ybor City out of that flow. They'll be going on their own ramp.
Now, construction on this entire project is expected to be done in 2027, but again, all lanes of I-275 except one southbound lane will be closed this weekend through downtown Tampa. Garrett.
Wow, and you know that's going to have ripple effects throughout the region this weekend.
Yes, it will definitely have ripple effects. It will especially impact what's known as the malfunction junction. So that 275 I-4 corridor, it's going to be basically shut down. So drivers will have to seek alternative routes. And it is during the weekend, so a lot of people are coming to the area to use the beach. They come up on I-4 and down I-275. So expect a lot of traffic. And definitely, if you're planning to go through downtown Tampa this weekend, plan an alternative route and plan lots of extra time to get to where you're going.
Hey, yeah, no doubt about that. All right, and finally here, Nancy, and that's remembering a Tuskegee Airman with Bay Area ties.
Yes, that's right. Lieutenant Colonel George Hardy, he was the youngest Tuskegee Airman. He has passed away in Sarasota at the age of 100. Hardy joined the Air Force in 1942 at just 19 years old. He went on to fly 21 combat missions over Germany in World War II. He later served in both Korea and Vietnam, making him one of the few American pilots to see combat in 3 conflicts. Now, Hardy's willingness to share his experiences left a lasting mark on students, veterans, and anyone who would listen. His life became not just a story of service, but one of education and inspiration. The National World War II Museum honored him this week as a true American hero, while the Tuskegee Airmen National Organization wrote his legacy of courage and dedication will never be forgotten. Again, Lieutenant Colonel George Hardy, the youngest Tuskegee Airman, has passed away at the age of 100. Garrett?
Oh, there is no doubt that he is an American hero. Fox 13 digital content producer Nancy Gay, we appreciate you joining us with our Tampa Connection.
Thank you.
We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back with more Florida Live after this. And as we go to break, here's a live look at I-4 here in Lake Mary, and it looks like the rain has stopped once again. We'll be right back. Welcome back into Florida Live. Give you a live look right now inside the state dining room of the White House, where President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu just walked out to begin this joint news conference. We know they've been meeting for several hours today, talking about the war in Gaza. Let's go ahead and listen in for a few minutes as the president and Israeli Prime Minister speak.
With many other countries, which is the only way this whole situation gets solved. And I'm not just talking about Gaza. Gaza is one thing, but we're talking about much beyond Gaza. The whole deal, everything getting solved. It's called peace in the Middle East. So today is a historic day for peace, and Prime Minister Netanyahu and I have just concluded an important meeting on many vital issues, including Iran, trade, the expansion of the Abraham Accords, and most importantly, we discussed how to end the war in Gaza, but it's just a part of the bigger picture, which is peace in the Middle East. And let's call it eternal peace in the Middle East. So this is far more than anybody expected, but the level of support that I've had from the nations in the Middle East and surrounding Israel and neighbors of Israel has been incredible, incredible. Every single one of them. This afternoon, after extensive consultation with our friends and partners throughout the region, I'm formally releasing our principles for peace, which people have really liked, I must say. And these are done, not just routinely done, these are done with total consideration and working with the nations that we're talking about. All of these nations have made contributions to those suggestions. I want to thank the leaders of many Arab and Muslim nations for their tremendous support in developing the proposal, along with many of our allies in Europe. Europe has been very much involved, and as I was called by many of the European leaders, most of them saying, is this true? Are you really doing peace in the Middle East? This is the most incredible thing we've heard. Some think it's the biggest thing they've ever heard. They called just to find out, was it just a rumor or is it actually done? And then they said, have you spoken to the Arab leaders? Have you spoken to all of the other leaders that we have to get? A lot of people involved in this one. I also want to thank Prime Minister Netanyahu for agreeing to the plan and for trusting that if we work together, we can bring an end to the death and destruction that we've seen for so many years, decades, even centuries, and begin a new chapter of security, peace, and prosperity for the entire region. And I want to just say that my meetings and dialogue that we had with so many countries, Saudi Arabia as an example, the king is a phenomenal person. The Emir of Qatar, he's incredible people. UAE, and that's MBZ and ABZ. We're totally involved. These are the people that we've been dealing with and who've been actually very much involved in this negotiation, giving us ideas, things they can live with, things they can't live with. Pretty complex. I mean, after 2,000, 3,000 years, whatever it is, I guess it's got to be a little complex, or it would have been done a long time ago. The King of Jordan was with us, as you know, in the United Nations. The President of Turkey, President Erdogan, is a friend of mine, a strong man, but a good man. President of Indonesia, somebody who's an amazing leader, Prabowo. He is an amazing leader and respected by everybody. He was in the room with us. We were together with most of these people that I'm mentioning. Others were by phone or the next day. The Prime Minister and the Field Marshal of Pakistan, they were with us right from the beginning. Incredible. In fact, they just put out a statement that they fully believe in this pact. It just came out just as I was walking around. They said, sir, you have a big notice from the Prime Minister of Pakistan and from the Field Marshal that they back this 100%. President El-Sisi of Egypt, who's terrific. And these are people I've gotten to know over the years. I mean, I would say it started around 2015. and then went into 2016 when the presidency officially began. But I've known him actually for a long time, and there are many cases really great men. I can't say in all cases, but I will tell you in many cases they're great men, and some great women too. They tend to be mostly men, however, I will say that. But if accepted by Hamas, this proposal calls for the release of all remaining hostages immediately, but in no case more than 72 hours. So the hostages are coming back, and I hate even saying this from the standpoint, doesn't sound right, but it is so important to the parents. The bodies of the young men, I believe in almost all cases, the young men are coming back immediately. I met with parents. The parents felt as strongly about getting the body of their dead boy back as they did as though the boy were alive and well. It's so important to them. And it means the immediate end to the war itself, not just Gaza. It's the war itself. Under the plan, Arab and Muslim countries have committed, and in writing in many cases, but I actually would take their word for it. The people I mentioned, I'd take their word for it, to demilitarize Gaza, and that's quickly. Decommission the military capabilities of Hamas and all other terror organizations. Do that immediately. And we're relying on the countries that I named and others to deal with Hamas. And I'm hearing that Hamas wants to get this done too, and that's a good thing. And destroy all terror infrastructure, including the tunnels, weapons of production facilities. They have a lot of production facilities that we're destroying. They'll also help train local police forces in the areas that we're discussing right now, in particular in and around Gaza, working with the new transitional authority in Gaza. All parties will agree on a timeline for Israeli forces to withdraw in phases. They'll be withdrawing in phases. No more shooting, hopefully. As progress is made toward achieving these goals, Arab and Muslim nations need to be allowed the chance to fulfill these commitments of dealing with Hamas. They have to deal with them because they were the one group that we have not dealt with. I haven't dealt with them. But the Arab countries are going to, and Muslim countries are going to be dealing with Hamas, and I believe they've already been there. I think they probably have an understanding, and they haven't maybe mentioned that, but I would imagine they do. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gone as far as they've gone. If they're unable to do so, then Israel would have the absolute right and actually our full backing, the U.S. full backing. Marco's here, and a lot of our leaders are here, our great Vice President, Susie Wiles, Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner. They've been so involved in this process. I don't think anybody else could have done it or even come close. But it's we're right there. We're right there. First time in thousands of years, I think you can probably say, if you really look into it, if you study back, if you're a scholar, you would say thousands of years. Israel would have my full backing to finish the job of destroying the threat of Hamas. But I hope that we're going to have a deal for peace. And if Hamas rejects the deal, which is always possible, they're the only one left. Everyone else has accepted it. But I have a feeling that we're going to have a positive answer. But if not, as you know, Bibi, you'd have our full backing to do what you would have to do. Everyone understands that the ultimate result must be
President Donald Trump speaking, saying that they are close to a deal on peace and an end to the Gaza, the war in Gaza. He was talking through some of the points there, basically saying the only country that, or the only group now that still hasn't agreed to it is Hamas. That a number of other countries and have agreed to this, just waiting on the okay, and that would also require a release of the remaining hostages as well. I believe they said within 72 hours if that the deal were agreed to. So it sounds like progress made in meetings today at the White House, President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. We're going to take a break here on Florida Live, but we'll be right back after this. Welcome back into Florida Live. Here is a live look at the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C., where time is ticking and a government shutdown is looming. When the clock strikes midnight Wednesday, October 1st, if there's not a spending deal that has been approved, then there will be a federal government shutdown. Now, this is something that I talked about just a little bit ago with Randy Fine. Welcome back in, by the way. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us this afternoon. I talked just a little bit ago with Randy Fine during Fox 35 News Plus, live on Fox Local and on YouTube, to talk about where things stand right now with the looming government shutdown, negotiations over spending deals, what Republicans and he would be willing to budge on, if anything, when it comes to ongoing conversations about priorities in the budget and in these spending continuing resolutions. And here is what he had to say about all of that, as we are now just a couple of days away from that deadline.
You know, we're waiting to see what's going to happen, whether the Democrats are going to shut down the government.
Well, we do know that some of the congressional leaders are expected to meet with the president this afternoon. What do you expect to come from that, if anything?
Look, it's up to the Democrats. We did our job week before last. The Republicans passed a 7-week extension so that we could finish the spending bills in a bipartisan way to make sure we ended up in the right place. Democrats voted to shut down the government. So we've done our job. And now really the question is, are Senate Democrats going to follow House Democrats' lead and shut the government down? Or will they vote for this nonpartisan 7-week extension so that we can finish the work of the people? It's up to them.
We know that this, looking ahead to this meeting this afternoon between the president and congressional leaders, we know there was a meeting scheduled for last week that was canceled. The president saying that basically because of the position of the Democrats, they expected it to be kind of a waste of time. Do you think the meeting today will be any different?
No, I mean, look, Democrats have said if we will not give free health insurance to illegal immigrants, they'll shut down the government. They're willing to, by the way, people need to understand this. If the Democrats shut down the government, people will not be able to buy flood insurance in the middle of hurricane season. But they have said free health care for illegal immigrants at the cost of $1.5 trillion in new debt is so important to them, they're willing to shut down the government for actual Americans. It's up to them whether we do the Schumer shutdown or not. We've done our job.
One of the things we've heard from Democrats, one of the concerns that they've raised is concern about health care costs and the potential increase in those premiums for millions of people if the ACA subsidies expire. Are you concerned about the impact of what people might be paying if those are allowed to expire?
Well, by the way, that's not true. There's no discussion about ACA premiums expiring. What Democrats want to do is to state that we are back in COVID and we're back in this COVID crisis and pandemic. So we need to put COVID era standards back in place. These are not things that were created when Obamacare was created. So that's a lie. There's actually no debate right now about whether to get rid of Obamacare credits. There's a debate that Democrats want us to state we're back in COVID. We need to return to COVID policies.
Talk to me, you touched on it a minute ago, and that was the impact on Florida. Talk to me about what your concern is if there is a government shutdown, and specifically for your constituents and folks here in Florida, of what the impact would be.
Well, look, the one that I really focus on, because I think it matters to Floridians, is we're in the middle of the highest part of hurricane season, the last 2 weeks of September, the first 2 weeks of October. And if Democrats shut down the government tomorrow, people will not be able to buy and they will not be able to renew their federal flood insurance, which is really the only flood insurance you can buy. And they're willing to do that because they want illegal immigrants to get health care insurance. You can look at the bill that they voted on. You can look at their plan. The crux of their plan is illegals deserve free health care paid for by Americans. If they're willing to shut down the government to fight for illegals, I don't know why they don't care about Americans, but that's a question they'll have to answer.
Congressman Fine, I think there are some people who kind of watch the debate on Capitol Hill and see a lot of finger pointing. And not a whole lot of necessarily working to get the job done and prevent a shutdown here in 2 days. What would you say to people who are frustrated by this process?
I think I'd tell them to vote Republican. 2 weeks ago, we passed a short-term 7-week extension to get us through to November 21st. So we can finish the budget in a bipartisan way. There's nothing political in that extension. There's no partisan riders. There's nothing that Democrats should find offensive. Democrats have said, no, no, no. If you won't give illegal immigrants back their free health insurance, we're going to shut the government down. And so that's their choice. Do we have this bipartisan vehicle to negotiate for the next 7 weeks? They can still try to get all their crazy ideas, or are they going to shut down the government? I think we're seeing Democrats so determined to just fight Donald Trump on everything that the same Democrats who dozens of times have voted to allow continuing resolutions all of a sudden aren't willing to do it.
What do you think happens here? We saw Democratic leadership the last time, kind of face some criticism for essentially caving in this. What do you think is going to happen here? Do you think they're going to cave to pressure to avoid a government shutdown, or do you think we're going to see a shutdown realistically?
Well, I think they're going to have to make a choice. Do they follow the will of 80-90% of Americans who want good government, or do they cower to the radical left that just wants to fight with Donald Trump? That's really all it is. And it's up to them. I mean, the House of Representatives passed a government funding bill, and we're now in our districts for Yom Kippur. We're not in Washington. So the Democrats and the Senate are there. They're going to have to decide what to do. And we'll know tomorrow, have they voted to shut down the government or have they voted to keep it open? But the window's drawing short. And I hope they do the right thing and they fund the government. But it's up to them. We did our job.
Congressman Fine, is this debate over the spending bill kind of a microcosm of what we see in politics nowadays, where it's hard for our kind of opposing sides to see eye to eye, or because of just, it seems, kind of widening gaps when it comes to philosophies and things like that, whatever it may be? Is this just another example of why we don't always see a whole lot get done in Washington?
Well, I don't know. What I will say is I think what we're seeing right now is Trump derangement syndrome. I mean, Democrats so determined to fight with President Trump that they'll make insane demands. Like, if you're not willing to borrow $1.5 trillion to give illegal immigrants health insurance, we're going to shut down the government. I mean, this isn't how it should work. Democrats should continue the government for 7 weeks so we can figure out and get the budget done and fight it out in front of the American people. But again, if Democrats want to shut down the government, that's going to be on them. But I think it's just a continuation of this obsession, this unhealthy obsession with Donald Trump, who Americans overwhelmingly voted for last year. But they just don't. Elections only seem to have consequences when Democrats win. The bottom line is we should be working together to keep the government open. Republicans did our job. Now Democrats need to decide, are they going to shut down the government or not?
Is there anything that, I know you mentioned the clean CR that Republicans already passed. Is there any wiggle room? Is there anything, any places where Republicans or you would be willing to budge if Democrats kind of came to the table and wanted maybe something slightly different?
The problem is it's too late. I mean, the government shuts down tomorrow night at midnight. The time for negotiation is when we do the budget. This is just an extension. It's like getting an extra couple days to get your term paper done. You don't try to renegotiate the syllabus. The time for those negotiations are between now and November 21st as we try to pass a budget. We'll still need Democratic votes in the Senate to pass that budget. So no, I don't think there's time now. The Democrats have to decide, are they going to shut down the government so that they can get illegal immigrants free insurance? I mean, that is their demand, free insurance for illegal immigrants. That to me is a non-starter in Florida.
11:59 tomorrow night, as the clock hits midnight, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think, if we were having this conversation right then, what do you think the headline would be?
I don't think there's any time between now and tomorrow night at midnight for anything to change. I think the Democrats have to decide, are they going to shut down the government or not? Remember, this is only 7 weeks of funding. This isn't some 10-year plan. We still have to finish the budget. They still have time to debate on all of their ideas. So this is just, again, this sort of pedantic, immature temper tantrum because they're mad at Donald Trump. I think what we're going to say tomorrow night at midnight is Republicans voted to fund the government for the next 7 weeks. Democrats voted to shut it down. I think it's going to be a very simple discussion.
Congressman Randy Fine speaking with me earlier today on Fox Local. Here's a live look at the White House, where President Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu speaking right now. And we know President Trump going to meet with congressional leaders coming up a little bit later this afternoon. We're going to take a break here on Florida Live, and we'll be right back. Welcome back into Florida Live. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Monday afternoon, live on Fox Local, YouTube, and on Fox 35. If you are joining us on Fox Local, or at least were with us earlier today, we brought you Governor Ron DeSantis speaking live from Gainesville, holding a news conference there where he was talking about a number of education issues, talking about Florida being ranked #1 when it comes to higher education. At the end of that news conference, he was asked about Charlie Kirk, his death, and the Florida Education Commissioner going after the teachers' licenses of some educators who were accused of celebrating Kirk's death. Here is what Governor DeSantis said about that in that news conference.
So what I will say is we have a education commissioner that is a pit bull, and his name is Stasi Kamoutsis. And all I can tell the folks on the Alachua School Board is, they are in Stasi. They have Stasi's attention, and it's not just on this, which is deplorable. What they've done to these students, the teacher, and this is wrong. And so there's going to be consequences for all of this. He is very quick to act. I'll just be like, getting ready. I'll be like going out the door, jumping in the car. I just check. I see he sent out a nastygram to another school. I'm like, yes, all right, go ahead. So he is very much a bulldog on this stuff. And look, it's sad to say because here we are with such an esteemed university, but that school district has not covered itself in glory. I think that they've just it's like they're in a different world. Like, you're a school board, but you're in the state of Florida, okay? You're not a school board in Oakland or Berkeley, okay? So, we have standards. We have certain things and rules and regulations that you have to abide by. I know that one teacher is going to be held accountable, and I know that there's going to be more, that happens. And here's the thing on the Charlie Kirk, because, Charlie, when he was 18, was beating the bushes in Florida. I met him when he was 18, and he was in Florida a lot because we had a lot of people here that were generous to support his initiatives, and he even lived here for a time. And I think he went to Arizona because he met his wife. But he was in Sarasota for a time, so I got to know him. Yeah, I got to know him pretty well. But he really relished going to these college campuses and trying to bring ideas to those campuses that may not necessarily get a fair hearing usually, and that's certainly true in many parts of the country. And so he was doing that, and he did it with a lot of vigor and a lot of passion. He really believed in what he was doing. And shouldn't we want these students to be? He would take questions from all of the hostile students, and then he would answer, and they'd go back and forth. What I found in just because he's honestly a lot more popular now because people are watching his clips since this happened. And what I found is, the students that would challenge him, had a superficial understanding. They were just parroting talking points. Whatever was kind of, cool to say amongst a little clique, the minute they had their assumptions challenged, they melted. And so what
Governor Ron DeSantis speaking at that news conference earlier today in Gainesville, where he was speaking at the University of Florida and talking about a number of different topics there. Well, let me bring you a little bit of breaking news here. This is a video posted, This is a video posted on social media just a few minutes ago from the Marion County Sheriff's Office talking about this missing persons case where an Amber Alert was sent out last week for a teenager who was believed to have been kidnapped. We found out the next day that there was no evidence supporting that the teenager ended up being found. We got some new details in this Facebook post and in this video saying that teenager ended up choosing to shoot himself in the leg in order to create and continue the ruse that he had been kidnapped and involved in some sort of shooting. The sheriff in this video saying it's possible that this teenager ends up facing charges as well. He says they're still processing all of the evidence in this case. And he also says, naturally, my detectives had a lot of questions for this teen, but his parents refused to allow detectives to speak with him. So this is certainly a case that we will continue to watch, but some new details there just coming in the last few minutes from the Marion County Sheriff, who says that teenager ended up shooting himself in the leg in order to kind of keep up the story that he had been kidnapped. Well, we appreciate you joining us on Florida Live today. It's been a busy Monday. We've had a lot going on all throughout the day. We've been streaming since 11 a.m. So if you're watching us right now on Fox 35, you can know that the news goes on all day on Fox Local. But we appreciate you joining us here on Florida Live this afternoon. We will be right back here tomorrow at 2 o'clock with more Florida Live. Until then, let me go ahead and give you a live look at the White House. A lot of news from Washington, D.C. as well today.
Alrighty, hi there. Hopefully you had a great weekend. Storm Team Meteorologist TJ Springer here in the Storm Center with an update on Fox 35 Weather Plus. We're live on Fox Local, we're live on Facebook, and we are live on YouTube. Hopefully you had a great weekend. Imelda, that is certainly our big concern, and it really has been throughout the last few days and really much of last week as well. But now that we've seen it continue to organize and eventually will likely become Hurricane Imelda as we progress through the first half of our work week. So we're going to get to all of that, but we were talking about this yesterday, and I want to hit on it right now. But we won't go over it just yet because we're going to talk tropics. But we talked about Halloween candy yesterday. If you were watching us on Good Day Orlando, so you have to let us know what your favorite Halloween candy is. That's our question of the day as we're almost into October, which is just hard to believe. But let's jump into the tropic. This is our Fox weather alert system. So, of course, Umberto, major hurricane Umberto is still churning, and we have Tropical Storm Imelda expected to become Hurricane Imelda as we progress through our Tuesday. And it looks like, thankfully, just minor impacts for us in Florida. And if you were watching us last week, we were talking about the Carolinas a lot because there was the potential at least for this to go up toward the Georgia coast, the Carolina coast. Now, what I want you to think about is we kind of hit on this because it was never a lock because of all the forecast factors in play. Of course, one of those is Umberto. Another one of those is that upper level area of low pressure that we had as well. And look how close they are now. You can see Umberto churning now southwest of Bermuda, and of course Imelda is lifting up now out of the Bahamas and just to the east of us here in the Sunshine State. And because of the nature of where these systems are in relationship to each other, that Fujiwara effect that we talked about, that's been kind of the headline of how these are going to do that delicate dance. And we're going to continue to see those through the remainder of, or at least that dance through the remainder of our Monday. And eventually, Umberto is what's going to help start to yank Imelda away from the Floridian Peninsula. So if it wasn't for Umberto, conditions could have been totally different. We could have had a potential hurricane landfall on the southeast coast, but thankfully that is not the case. Not seeing any comments right now, but thanks for all of you for hopping on. Again, we're live on Fox Local. We're live on YouTube and Facebook right now. Let me hop on and see if I'm missing any. I see just one of you watching right now on YouTube. But hey, if you have any questions, please let me know. If you have any questions on Facebook, let me know. If you're watching on Fox Local and you want to ask a question, pull us up on Facebook and YouTube and let us know that way. So right now, someone's asking me, Shane, you're asking if these are going to merge. No, these are not going to merge, and that's actually not the case. They never meteorologically can really do that. That's a great question. Now they can impact each other. One can kind of take over, so to speak. You'll see one fade away. But in this case, they're going to be able to kind of influence each other's tracks. But no, they won't merge. But that's a great question. Dolores, how are you? No, it's not looking like any of these are going to hit Boston, Massachusetts.